I'm Captain Coppin with Texas Fishing Tips, and this is your weekly fishing report.
This week over here just south of the JFK, the tide has fluctuated a little bit, but during those low tide days, we've been catching some good redfish just south of the marina along this west drop off. Catching good redfish, black drum, and a couple of trout here and there. Remember, this side of the causeway, they still got to be 17 inches. But primarily what we're focused on are those drum and those reds. Throwing a popping cork with a live shrimp under it, just kind of letting it float around. I tend to catch more on those stronger current days, bringing more fish through and just kind of casting up just like I do in the land cut and letting that cork float down the edge and catching plenty of reds that way. Look for this pattern to continue all the way through October. Over here just south of PETA in the Beecrofts area, there's a big school of drum hanging out right here. I know this is a really big area, but they've been moving. Starting out here in the day, in the morning, usually a boat gets on them and starts pushing them south. But you'll see the boats in here chasing them. Just put a jig head in a shrimp, or you can put a cork in a shrimp and just let it float into them. You just can't throw it into them and pop it real hard because it kind of spooks them. The windier days, it's easier to throw a cork into them. Also, you can throw it further with a cork. And on those calmer days, you kind of got to put like a 16th or an 1/8 ounce jig head and float it in front of them and, try not to make big movements because those are the days that are easy to see, but they're also easily spookable. And, you got to trade off that strong wind and not being able to see them real good for them eating a lot better. And about halfway in between, it's easier to catch them or see them when it's calm, but they're not as easy to catch. Over here in Nighthawk, been catching a few reds early in the morning before that wind picks up all around these Nighthawk drains, catching a few black drum, throwing in the potholes. For cut bait, I'm using either skipjack or mullet. And for the black drum, just using shrimp under a cork. Of course, if the perch are real bad, I've found some places in here where the perch aren't too bad. Get a big open sand pocket. The perch, when it gets in the grass, that typically seems where the perch are the worst. But when you've got some good open big sand pockets, that's where you're not going to have to deal with the perch too much. Pretty much they're everywhere, so perch are always going to be a hindrance, but where the bait, there's the fish. And I've just been kind of jumping from drain to drain to drain around these islands, getting a decent number of redfish and an occasional black drum mixed in the group. Over here on the tide gauge bar, we've been catching some good drum along the sandbar, catching a few reds. The reds are starting to school up pretty soon. Look for those drum on those calmer days, just off the tide gauge. There are a lot of puppy and butterfly drum right up on top of the bar, and those big schools of upper slot drum and they're fun to play with and fun to fight. Pretty much over 25 inches, I let them go. And they're just fun to find and throw a jig head with a shrimp in them. But if you want some good eating fish, just get up on the bar itself. Caught a really nice flounder the other day, about 22.5 inches, just messing with the drum and the redfish. So come in here, you never know what you're going to get. Put a couple of reds and a drum in the box, maybe a big flatty, and you got lots of territory to fish all up and down this tide gauge. When you're looking for a place to stop along the bar, just look for any kind of bait activity. And then as you stop the boat, get out of the boat and wade fish up to it. Unless you want to stay in the boat, you can just power pull down and work up and down it if the wind is light. Standing on the south shore of Baffin, been catching some good fish. Reds, drum, a few scattered trout, just working that drop off mainly. When the tide comes up, which I look forward to it coming up again. It'll get a lot more territory up on this flat, but right now it's just a little too shallow for me to be comfortable moving around in here. If you've got a little skinny boat, then I do recommend coming up in here because there's lots of bait on this flat. Just it's hard in my boat because I've got a 24-foot V-hull boat, and it's hard to get up in this flat. If I had a little scooter, I could get up in here. So I've been just kind of staying on the drop-off, catching a few drum and reds here and there, and waiting for that tide to come up where it can make those drifts along this flat and getting us some good redfish action.
I'm Captain Grant Coppin. Thanks for watching.